Like to call to order the Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024 business meeting for Special School District. If we could all rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Amy, if we can have a roll call.
Director Asner?
Here.
Director Cuneo?
Here.
Director Hudson? Here. Director Muller?
Here.
Director Staten? Here. Vice President Byers?
Here.
President Petrov?
Here. All right, we have no public comment for tonight. So next on the agenda is 3.01, the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have- Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? First on the superintendent list, we have 4.01 legislative update with William Campbell.
Good evening, President Petrov, Board of Directors, and Dr. Macklin. This is Bill Campbell. We lovingly call him Bill. His name is William. He's going to talk to you. He's gracious to come tonight all the way from Jeff City and drive in the fog to talk to us and update us on legislative things that are happening or getting ready to go into full swing down in Jeff City.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I don't know if we've mentioned this before, but every Friday at 9, we have a call and a shout out to Wendy and Trevina and Kevin, because we're dealing with some very complicated issues, many complicated issues. They've been generous enough to give their time to have Zoom calls with legislators who are passionate about issues and trying to work through those. And we've been successful in that. So I can't say enough of how much help it is and how much they add to the passion about what we need to do with the students that you serve. And we are fortunate, I am fortunate to represent the special school district, which just has this amazing reputation. And it says a lot to you and the staff, and I can't tell you how much it is. And it's I'm very proud. So the wonderful things you do. Well, wow. The Missouri General Assembly is in an election year, and we have several that are running for statewide office and also for Senate offices. And there is a lot of political positioning. Today, the President Pro Tem did something that I've never seen done in such a, I guess, a mass of committee expulsions. Took away committee chairmanships of the Education Committee, the Veterans and Pensions Committee, and the Economic Development and Taxation Committee. As best we can tell, they're still on the committees, but he's also removed Senator Hoskins from the Appropriations Committee, it appears, and Senator Bratton from his vice chairmanships. So it's unprecedented. I've seen them do this a couple of times as long as I've been doing this. Certainly not this many at this time. So there was a spirited discussion on the Senate floor, and I was listening to that as I was driving in, and they finally settled on adopting the escort committee for the governor tomorrow, who gives his state of the state. I've said this before, we got 3 factions in the Senate. It's like a parliament. You've got the newly formed Freedom Caucus. You've got what I call the regular conservative Republicans, and then you have the Democrats. And right now, the two Republican caucuses are in spirited discussion on the Senate floor. It's hard to explain to other people from other states that are in my position. We have the pure filibuster in the Senate. And really, I don't know of any other state that has this. But all I can say is that if you have had the chance to watch Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, that's our Missouri Senate. And if you've got, that was only one, if you got 5 or 6 to stand and filibuster, you can talk for a long time, days, nights. And that's what we're in right now. They haven't even gotten through gubernatorial appointments, which were stalled on Thursday, and they haven't gotten to all of the bill assignments yet. So that's what we're dealing with as far as the General Assembly is concerned. And it's only going to get more interesting. The governor gives his state of the state tomorrow. There is a consensus revenue agreement between the House, Senate, and the governor of a 0.2% increase. So we've got a flat budget. It will be interesting tomorrow what he presents. He's indicated that he will continue with his agenda of workforce preparation and infrastructure. We think there will probably be a significant funding proposal for I-44. Other than that, I'm expecting, and everybody else, is very flat budget. We'll see. We'll be getting we'll get the top lines tomorrow. And then as the week goes on and then into next week, you really dig down and you see what his real recommendations are. It takes a little while to get through all of that and dig down into what I call the detail sheets. Though that's what's happening this week. On the Senate calendar, there are 2 bills. One is the federal reimbursement allowance. This bill, there's 2 things you really have to do in a legislative session. You have to pass a budget, and you have to pass what we call the FRA. It is a way of taxing healthcare providers and hospitals and nursing homes to leverage more Medicaid funding, more federal Medicaid funding. Kind of a scheme. That gets wrapped up in a Planned Parenthood right to life battle. And that's number 1 on the calendar. Why I mention this to you, it's $4.5 billion to the state budget. You don't pass it, you got a $4.5 billion hole in the budget. So it affects everybody. The second bill on the calendar is the Educational Savings Account bill. It is it's what we call a voucher bill. It also includes provisions for expansion in charter schools in Boone County, St. Charles County, and St. Louis County. That was added in committee, really wasn't debated. It was part of the committee substitute. This bill would cost state general revenue about $271 million. So it's a significant hit. Which bill they take up first, that will be interesting. And I don't think they have decided yet, but they are 1, 2 on the calendar. That's the only 2 bills on the calendar. The thought was they would bring it up tomorrow, but then we had the snow day on Monday. So we'll see. The other bill in the Senate that's getting some consideration is the tax credit bill. Now that fiscal note on the tax credit bill, tax credit families, they can take the credit and go to whatever form of educational institution or homeschooling, is $1.5 billion. So I was looking at those fiscal notes last night and I thought, wow, that's some real money when when we're in a flat budget. The third bill that I will mention that is moving and we believe will be voted out to be placed on the House floor is the school transfer bill. So you can transfer from one district to the other. We worked on this with a sponsor, 2 years ago. And we believe that we have protections so that we can manage and provide services. But of course, what we're concerned about in this bill is capacity issues. And we think we have those protections in the bill. We're following the bill. Whether this bill survives in the Senate is another question. Senate's more geared towards the ESA, the Educational Savings Account. The House is geared more toward the school transfer bill. We're in the early stages, and this will just be interesting to be involved in, part of monitoring. We had committee hearings today. We're always monitoring. I have a discussion tomorrow with another House sponsor about an IEP bill she has, and I'll have those discussions. We'll probably set up another Zoom call to have those discussions with her and try to address her concerns in the bill. But we've been very successful in that so far. I think that when we present the facts and you have the expertise that you have here, it's just such a valuable tool, and it's been helpful.
I have a quick question on the transfer bill. If an individual transfers, let's say from St. Louis City into the county, or from Jefferson County or St. Charles County, and they have an IEP, are we responsible then for that? And if so, can we charge for that?
We would be, but we have fixes in the bill where we can make that determination whether we can handle that individual. One of the things that we were most worried about is just the way that we're set up. A school district here, if they accept someone with an IEP, and that's in September, we find out in September, it's like surprise. How do we handle that? And so we've addressed the transfer issues, we believe, and also ways that we can manage the capacity issues, not only in the districts, but also in the SSD schools.
I was just wondering, let's say that we have an individual that transfers into one of the schools in the county. And let's say that individual requires services at one of our schools, not, that's the large expense. Or let's say that individual needs a POS service. Who is responsible for that?
Well, the
financially, who is responsible?
sending district.
The home district.
Home district.
Yeah, the home district, yes.
Okay.
But again, we've got to make sure that we can handle, let's face it, SSD services are incredible.
Yeah.
And there is a concern with me and others that we could have capacity issues. So we need to manage that. And we believe those tools are in the bill to do that.
I'm always leery when we use language like we have to be careful about our capacity and ensuring that we have everything we need to meet that student's needs, because I feel like that's a slippery slope into some equity issues.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, we are strong advocates for the students who receive the services here and want to make sure they have the quality services.
I don't doubt that.
So we're not we're not, I think there are other districts in the state, especially outstate, are more concerned about losing students. You know, the conversations that we've had has always been, we want to make sure we can provide the services. So that's always been the mantra. That's what we've talked about. It's how we've testified, how we work for the sponsors. So that's what I think's so great about the special school district, because you care about the student.
Yeah, I think the problem with that is that, like, even if ideally we don't want to create inequities, systemic structures exist to actually block out certain populations. And so as long as we are being cognizant and aware that, like, we've got to gut check all of our structures to ensure that we're not isolating certain populations.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I think it just has to be very, very, very intentional.
I agree. I mean, these bills, I mean, they're complicated, especially when you get into the issues, and you've got the federal IDEA bill and how we were on one an hour and 30 minutes Friday, trying to figure out one and working with the state representative. So I can just tell you that's always on our mind. I mean, and it's, and I can tell you with the staff, there's this huge responsibility of providing the services.
Thank you
So-
for that assurance.
I have a question, and I realize you may not have the answer to the specific question, but so my understanding based on the questions that Dr. Cuneo was asking is that if somebody from outside the district transfers to the county and then accesses SSD services,
Mhm.
is the original district's responsibility to pay for those services that are provided by SSD?
Mhm.
And what happens if they disagree with SSD's determination about the need for services?
We have that, we have that. We have a provision that we make that decision.
Okay.
SSD makes that.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other-
Yeah, the oh boys, because I think we are
It's a
better
huge
funded
re-
than other districts.
It's a
And
huge
that's-
responsibility,
Yeah.
but trying to get that balance that we're talking about.
When you start to get into individual student and that cherry picking, it's just a dangerous
It is,
territory. Just
yeah, it is. I mean, we've had several discussions about this, how, and not only on this issue, but all issues dealing with issue of IEPs or special education. So it's not easy.
Any other questions or concerns?
So I see you have a lot of NEA members, and I just want to give a shout out to my friend Otto Fagan, who's their lobbyist and who I work very closely with. And Otto was on the Senate staff who drafted the special school districts statute. So I have to say, every now and then I turn to Otto and I go, okay, Otto, what did you intend to have happen here? So he's been a great resource and a great partner.
Great. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill.
Next on our agenda is 4.02 Transportation 5-Year Plan.
President Potroff, Dr. Macklin, Board of Education. I'm Kenny Mulder, Director of Transportation, here to present our 5-year plan update. All right, our overview. Transportation services are available to all students attending SSD managed schools and programs, including separate public schools, career technical education schools, and vocational training programs. The department oversees 2 in-house locations, our central and south garages, and our contracted north garage is transportation services provided by Student Transportation of America. Our department also oversees transportation partnerships with Parkway, Melville, and Kirkwood school districts, as well as 4 alternative transportation companies, EMT, Ever Driven, Express Transport, and Zip Care. In my department, we have myself, one transportation director, we have 2 managers, 4 supervisors, 3 safety trainers, 5 technicians, 2 fuelers, 5 dispatchers, 137 drivers with 17 open positions, 108 monitors with 24 open monitor positions, and 2 secretaries. Our routing snapshot. So our south garage, we run 52 routes from south, 52 routes from our central garage, 102 routes from our north garage. Parkway does 20 routes for us. Melville does 12 routes for us. Kirkwood does 6 routes for us. And then students that utilize cabs or alternative transportation, we have 54 of those. Currently in our fleet, Type A, which is the small vans, we have 13 lift and 71 straight. Our Type C vehicles, which is our larger buses, anywhere from 47 passenger to 65 passenger. We have 95 lift buses and 18 straight buses. We have 8 service vehicles that are the district vehicles, our safety vehicles, my vehicle, vehicles like that. And our average fleet age is 5 years, and we're almost up to 6 years now. We've missed a couple of years of fleet rotation cycles. So we're almost to about an average of 6 years now. So our accomplished goals, implement parent app, the tracking system. It's currently in progress. All programs are communicating. The application was rolled out in November of 2022. We're continually upgrading that. We're upgrading to a new app this year in hopes that more parents will utilize that. We haven't got a lot of parents that do utilize, but that'll be our primary communication with parents going forward. So hopefully at the end of this school year, beginning for sure of next school year, we'll have that all rolled out and things will be communicating better. We worked with HR director on new recruiting and hiring process. We hired 25 drivers, 21 monitors since January of 2022. In the past year, 22-23 school year, we began the construction on the new facility at Central Garage. We continue to determine the most effective advertising system to attract new hires, train all pertinent staff on transportation data collection. We were supposed to have purchased 25 buses. Those buses were canceled because of the chassis shortages. So 22, 23, we didn't have any. We'll talk about next, the 23, 24. Establish electronic access for required transportation forms. So we're currently using our old system, but again, once this will be rolled up into our new application, and everything will be done, their pre-trip, their post-trip, their student ridership, everything will be done on this new application. So our current 23-24, obtain a fully staffed workforce. This is still in progress. We've hired 8 drivers and 7 monitors since January of 2023. Establish a committee to develop standards for student travel training. That's in progress in hopes that we can start setting some transportation goals for our students to get them more prepared for transportation services once they leave us. Complete construction on the new transportation facility. We're on target to be completed this year and hopes to be moving in during spring break. Review of contracted service, looking at doing a contract extension for North Garage, our Student Transportation of America contract. They've given us a couple different contracts. One is just a 1-year extension. One is a 2-year or 3-year contract with a 1-year, 2-year a 3-year contract with 2 1-year renewals extensions, and then a 2-year with a 1-year extension. So we're looking at what that might look like now. Move into the new transportation facility. As I said, we're planning on moving in there during spring break of this year. Purchase of 25 school buses. We're only able to order 10. The initial order was for 25 Type C, which are our larger buses. Those won't be here until August of next year, again, because of supply chain and chassis not being available. But we did have a couple of our vendors said they had some buses, some Type A's, the smaller vans. So we did make a purchase of 10. They are to be delivered in the next couple months. Year 3, that's a 24-25, upgrade outdated maintenance equipment. We've done a lot of that already moving into our new facility. So we're ahead of the game there. Set individual transportation budgets for SSD schools and partners schools. Review contracts for partnership agreements for efficiency and economically. We have our Parkway and Melville and Kirkwood contracts are coming up soon. So we're going to review those to see what makes sense to allow them to keep maintaining those for us, or if we want to bring them back in-house. And on next year's, I added, you'll see there, purchased 35 buses for $4,775,000. That's just trying to catch us up to where we need to be with the year and a half that we've lost. Also, the price of buses are really going up. I used to pay about 50, or the district used to pay about 58,000 for a type A van. They're about 100,000 now. Yeah. And our larger type A buses were about 110,000. They're about $150,000 a piece right now. So prices continue to go up. We've looked at the possibility of electric and doing some grants for electric. Problem being they just don't have the range that we need yet for our students. We put a lot of miles on buses. Our routes, a lot of times our buses leave, they're gone all day. And not to mention the cost. So we go from about 150,000 to 450,000 and don't get much longevity out of it because the wear and tear of the vehicle still going to happen. So year 4, 25, 26, review current training modules for compliance. We've done some revisions this past year. We'll look again in a few years. If we need to make revisions or modifications, we'll do that, but we'll also look at that as we continue to move forward. And then again, purchase of 25 buses. That's kind of our average in order to maintain our fleet rotation. Our larger buses we maintain for about 10 years, and they have about 150,000 miles on them when we trade those out. So we still get some good trade-in value on those because they know we maintain them very well. As you guys know, we get recognition for almost every year from DESE and from the Highway Patrol. And our type A vans, we try to rotate those out about every 7 years, and they have about 130,000 miles on them when we trade those out. So we're really kind of pushing it to the limits with our buses and with the specialized equipment we have, the lifts, the dual air conditioning units, the seat belts. We really try to rotate those out. That's why you'll see we're at a 5-year average. State average, I was in a meeting today for our state transportation meeting, and the state average is 7. But I think we need to really stick to that. Try to maintain that 5. We're almost pushing to 6 now, but I'd like to maintain that if you guys are okay with that. Year 5, 26, 27, review transportation software for upgrades, routing, maintenance, driver, monitor safety and training. Again, we're doing all of our routing and our driver and maintenance currently. So hopefully that's still going well by then. And then again, just our average purchase of the 25 buses to maintain our average fleet age. I can do that pretty quick. Questions for me?
Any questions? I have some.
Okay.
About the chassis,
Yes, ma'am.
can you educate me on did the major warehouse that made them explode or?
No,
where did
it's,
they all go?
I don't, I mean, I wish I had a better answer, but because it's the supply chain from seats to engines to transmissions. So I call that the chassis because that's everything.
Oh, I
Part of that
thought you
is
were
the
talking
chassis.
about just the
Yeah,
metal
No.
part at the
So
bottom.
the body, they're readily available. We have plenty of those, but the chassis, they just don't. And what I used to be able to put an order in March, I would have those buses by August. We're putting an order in March. A year and a half later, we're getting buses. And I hope that gets better because it's very challenging because now we're going into a whole, I don't even know what to budget for going forward. So we even had some vendors that wanted me to sign contracts on buses I didn't know the pricing on. I can't do that. I can't,
And
how do you buy something you don't know what it costs, right?
And this has to be affecting all school districts.
All schools, yeah.
So somebody should open up a bus making company.
There are companies that are trying to, and they're trying to come into, Missouri, and we have some pretty strict specs for school buses, just because we want to keep our kids safe.
Yeah.
So we're kind of battling that on the state transportation board right now with making sure that we're staying compliant and we're not loosening our specs or our safety to accommodate our lack of buses. So yeah.
Any other questions or anything? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next on our superintendent report, 4.03 facilities and operations 5-year capital plan review.
Good evening, Dr. Macklin, President Petrov.
You got it.
And the rest of the board. My name is Toby Clodfelter. I'm the Director of Facilities and Operations. And I'll keep this as quick as I can. Our staff has is the same as it was last year. Nothing's been added or changed. We were up until just recently fully staffed. So we're pretty happy. Staff morale seems to be pretty high. We currently take care of 2 maintenance buildings, 7 schools, 22 other buildings. I cannot say enough about my staff right now. They're just operating at a high level. We currently take care of all maintenance, infrastructure, mechanical systems. And again, my staff, we normally have around 5,000 work orders a year. This past year, we did over 7,000. So we're really keeping everything maintained as best we can. We also take care of hazardous waste removal. We're in charge of custodial, grounds, snow removal, which has been kind of a challenge the last several days. We plan and execute all major projects. So far, we have been project managers for all of our projects, saving about 10%. So literally millions of dollars because we do everything in-house and without bond issues. As far as CSIP, with equity and commitment and collaboration, we do collaborate with all the stakeholders, the principals, admin, to come up with the best plan moving forward on what facilities are needed.
You need to click the.
Oh, no, sorry. I told Mark I will forget. So instead of going back, we're actually in year three, almost 4, with 1 year left on a 5-year plan. So I didn't go all the way back, but we did complete South Tech. That was our last school that needed a security vestibule. Now we're going to actually kind of go back with John and security and revisit some of the schools that may not have the ballistic film or other issues that we can do to make it safer. We completed the new audiology, the ramp at Ackerman, new bridges remodel. I will say about bridges, we came in on time and under budget, which is a rare thing in many districts. We remodeled the C hallway for adult ed, applied tech at North, all in-house with my crew. We did put in the Litziger and Southview playgrounds and planned future projects. So this is South Tech and the new vestibule. Litziger, Southview, this one actually is Southview, but it says Litziger, but they are pretty much identical. Both playgrounds are complete.
Don't forget to.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Applied Tech at South Tech was part of the remodel for the front entry. Bridges. I didn't have a completed picture, but this gives you an idea. We took an old shop and made it into the new Bridges program in South County on South County's campus. Let's see, we started the dental lab at North Tech and finished it, and that one also came in under budget and on time. So we're pretty proud of that, and I'd love for everybody on the board to come see it someday. It's absolutely really a nice facility. So we're looking at looking forward on 3, but I may as well skip to 4. Currently central office has been postponed, but there is talks between Ms. Deidre and Dr. Macklin to kind of figure out the schedule for that and where we're at with that. We also have HVAC, North County, South County, early childhoods, the additional playgrounds, windows possibly. The electrical shop at South County Tech is getting ready to launch here in February, late February. So that'll be a remodel of one of the shops in South County. We did complete Ackerman Playground. We did a roof replacement at North, Litziger, and Ackerman. I'm sorry, Ackerman, Litziger, and North. New owner walking path was postponed. We are currently looking at design for the new owner and Southview front hallway remodels. And we just recently, with Mr. Emmanuel at North, we came up with a cafeteria remodel that we're kind of excited about. It's really going to use that space that we have there. Kenny mentioned the central garage. We are substantially complete at this point. They're just doing punch list items. These are some in progress photos. And we're excited because they were going to finish way ahead of schedule, our move-in schedule in March. But it's nice to not have to be rushed. Here's a few more pictures of bathrooms and areas within the building. Year 5. Oops. Give me the backup button. No. Okay. Goal 1. We we're looking at upgrading the remaining playgrounds. We'd like to do that. They have been such a success and the kids have just really really embraced them and used them. And it's heartwarming to actually see them out on the playgrounds. We are still looking at infrastructure planning. We have so many more roofs, pervious concrete, asphalt, sealant stripes, things that we're really trying to work into our budget to keep ahead of the game on that, because it's so easy to get behind. And if you defer maintenance, it will catch up to you eventually. So we started that planning. We're working with Kevin Andert and other admin officials to come up with ideas where we're going with the shops and at the tech schools and the sped schools. We did finish our catastrophic failure planning that came up last year. We did complete that, and Jennifer and communications helped print that all up for us, and it's been distributed to the places that it'll be needed. So in case of a flood or sprinkler head breaking or something like that, my crew knows who to call, where to call, and we're on top of things in minutes. So that's the gist of it. We are also looking at a program for our safety certification, for forklift certification, so forth. And then lastly, I just kind of threw this in at the last. We do test water for lead and other impurities once a year, but with all this going on, we're thinking about doing that more often, maybe quarterly. It's because it's just not that expensive and it makes everyone feel just a little safer. And lastly, the one I was looking for. Does anybody have any questions? And I'm sorry I went through so fast.
No, you're okay. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda, 4.04, the vocational skills program.
Good evening, President Potroff, Vice President Byers, Dr. Macklin, and the Board of Directors. My name is Casey Wisdom. I am the Director of Transition Services in the Vocational Skills Program for the district, and I'm here to provide just an overview of the Vocational Skills Program for you. And I have to give a shout out to some staff in the audience that I didn't know would be here, but I'm glad to see them here. So we have wonderful staff in the Vocational Skills Program.
Who are here? Who's here? Who's here?
So we have Matt Conover, Julie David, who retired but subs for us, and she is amazing. And we have Chuck Howard in the back. Matt's at Jefferson Barracks. Chuck is at Embassy Suites, and Julie's been all over for us, but she was with us for years at Barnes Hospital. So wanted to just recognize them. And I'm going to try to remember the clicker. So the mission of the Vocational Skills Program is to provide a continuum of supports and services to students and families to assist the students in gaining the skills needed to achieve realistic and meaningful post-secondary goals. We have partnerships, as you will see, in a number of industry areas. And so we're in healthcare. You'll see that we're in almost every hospital in St. Louis County. We are in a lot of long-term care facilities. We have some sites in the transportation, logistics, and manufacturing realm. We have some educational partners, including Special School District, Rockwood. We have a site at Little Creek Nature Reserve in Ferguson, Florissant, and University City Children's Center. Hospitality, as I pointed out, Chuck Howard is at Embassy Suites downtown. They're an awesome partner for us. And we are also at the Chase Park Plaza. We have some corporate partners. So we work on both Bayer campuses. We are in Pfizer and Merritt's. And then we have a few government entities that we are with: St. Louis County Government Center. And as I mentioned, where Matt is, Jefferson Barracks. Okay. So VSP is a combination of life skills instruction and community-based employment skills training. So students come into VSP from high school. So typically they finish their 4 years of high school, and their IEP teams have determined that they would benefit from continuing in services to focus on those employment skills. Students come to us at a variety of levels. So we have some students who are coming into us who are still very much working at that pre-vocational level. We may be working more on things like interpersonal communication, following multi-step directions, so that self-regulation piece out in the community. Some students are working more on work readiness. So we're working there on more decision-making, problem solving within the job. We're starting to focus a little bit more on pace and accuracy within the job so that we can ensure we're getting students to work towards industry standards. And then we have a handful of sites who actually provide on-the-job training in a specific job. So there we're really looking at entry-level jobs and how we can provide students with the most experience we can within a job that they may be interested in. So students can come into us sort of at any of those levels. We always try to move students across that continuum to get them as close to employment ready as possible, but they can also graduate from our program at any one of those spaces, and we help connect them to whatever they need next in the community. So IEP teams at the high school are really making that decision that the student needs to continue in special education services beyond those 4 years of high school to meet transition IEP goals related to employment. Those services can take place in the vocational skills program if appropriate. Students in the program have post-secondary goals primarily related to integrated competitive employment. We do consider graduation at every IEP. It's very individualized. So a student could come into us and stay 6 months and be employment ready, or they could stay with us for 3 years until they're 21. So it's very individualized, but we do have a conversation around whether or not they're ready for graduation at every annual IEP. And then the site assignment process is an administrative decision. We do give families the opportunity and students the opportunity for some input through a survey, but we're really looking at those strengths, interests, needs, and preferences and needs and what support needs there are when we're assigning them to a site. When students are in VSP, they receive job skills training in an integrated competitive work environment. So they are out in that business working with and alongside of the employees of that business. They receive direct instruction in job skills, interpersonal social skills, and daily living skills. Again, all while out in that business. They no longer go to a traditional school setting. We're always working to increase independence in those employability skills and also increase those self-determination skills that are so critical for life after school. And then finally, we are referring our students to eligible adult services. So all of our sites have a vocational rehabilitation counselor who is coming into the site periodically, working with students when they're ready to graduate, connecting them to those next steps. We work with the Department of Mental Health, Division of Developmental Disabilities Regional Office, and the variety of community rehab providers that are out there. So your St. Louis ARC, MERS Goodwill, Easter Seals Midwest, all of those entities we are connecting families to. It's just a brief snapshot of our demographics. And while our program is very flexible in terms of when students come in and out, our demographics stay pretty similar year after year. So you'll see approximately 80% of our students either have a diagnosis of autism or intellectual disability. So those are our two biggest disability areas. You'll see our ethnicity breakdown there as well as gender. Our sending districts, again, there's some fluctuation in these numbers, but they stay fairly consistent in terms of how many students districts are sending. Makes sense, smaller districts, fewer students, larger districts, larger number of students. And then finally, about 60 to 65% of VSP graduates obtain employment annually. That's compared nationally to the 40.8% you see there. That 40.8% includes all disabilities protected by ADA. That was of December 2023. And then I broke out the national statistics for autism and for intellectual disabilities just for comparison purposes. So I'm really proud of how hard our staff work to get our students to that level of employment versus what we see nationally. Any questions?
I think I have a weird question.
Okay, that's all right. I'll try to answer it.
Yeah, try to stay with me.
All right.
In my time as a SNAP teacher, I taught social skills, right? So working with students in middle school all the way through 21 with social skills, right?
Yeah.
So there were a few times where I felt like students who were homeschooled, SNAP had kind of met its like capacity to support them, and like the VSP program would be more appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't always feel like there was a natural transition to support parents and saying like, I know why you didn't want to send your 7-year-old to a classroom of 35 students, but this program is actually probably more beneficial than the 2 hours a week that they're getting in SNAP.
Mm-hmm.
And like, have you guys, I don't know if this is a common thing, if you get this call often, if there is something to pass on to parents for them to have conversations and or
Yeah.
some type of orientation so that they feel like their students are safe. Because often, what I saw in my SNAP experience is that they just didn't feel like their children were safe in elementary and middle school.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think the VSP program is more appropriate.
Yeah, so it doesn't happen often, but maybe once or twice a year, we may get approached by a parent of a SNAP student asking about vocational skills program. And we're always open to that consideration. The big piece is they have to be enrolled in their home school district.
Mhm.
So they're going to have to go at age 18 to their home school district and try to enroll as a student. So that's the first place to start. Once they do that, then we typically, because we don't know these students or have any data or information, we'll recommend that they participate at that high school level, maybe in the community-based vocational instruction program there for a period of time while they gather some data so that we can determine if they're appropriate to come into the vocational skills program. But again, they're not eligible unless they're enrolled in their home school district.
That part I knew. I think
Yeah.
I think it might be helpful to even share that with like how that process happens with
Yeah.
SNAP teachers. Cause though you may get that one or
Yeah.
two parents a year, I think there's more parents who are just like, I don't know this process.
Yeah.
And so I'm scared to even explore it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Making people aware.
Sure. Yeah. And I can revisit with our SNAP folks, just what that communication is around that.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
What about the SNAP students, of course, would presume also include the students who are in private schools opposed to homeschool
Yeah,
settings as well?
For sure.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
I have a question. You just mentioned the high school level programs you have. So what, before they hit senior year or before they end senior year?
Yeah.
What steps go on?
In that process.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have transition facilitators who spend the majority of their time out in the high schools supporting. And so they're out at CBVI sites, seeing students, getting to know students. But we will start asking our high schools for projected numbers like the spring before we start considering students. And then in that senior year, that home IEP team will invite a transition facilitator to the IEP, typically in the first semester, so that we can have conversations about if services that are needed are most appropriately provided at VSP. And so that typically happens first semester of senior year. We do have some that still come in second semester, which is fine. Just for budget purposes, we try to know that information in first semester if possible. And then we do our side assignments as a leadership team all throughout the school year. So we meet monthly. And as those IEPs are held, the facilitators are presenting those students to the leadership team. We're making those assignments. And then right around spring break, we communicate that out to the sending school, to the parents, and to our receiving VSP teachers. And then the VSP teachers reach out to that new family and offer them a tour and to start the onboarding processes that spring before they come into us in the fall.
Okay.
Mhm.
This might, just as an aside, when we start looking at programs to talk about the MSBA, you look at the differences in the percentages of the individuals who are employed afterwards, as opposed to what without this program were employed afterwards. I mean, it's clearly a significant difference.
Mhm.
This might be one that would be of interest to other districts. I mean,
Sure.
this is a striking difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good point. I
Great.
think one of the things that we also noted in DOT today was just the comparison to the national average, right?
That's, I mean, this is
Right,
striking.
you know, those numbers are clear on student outcomes. So it's a great point.
Yes.
All very commendable work. It's amazing. I am curious though, on slide 7, what your read is on the gender numbers.
Yeah,
Why?
I have not dug into that. It stays fairly consistent. Because we receive students from across the county and they're sort of referred to us, I've not dug into why maybe we're receiving so many males versus females, but I have noted that myself.
Could that because the greater number of
The
males
proportion-
with
yeah,
autism?
possibly, absolutely. Yeah,
That's my
Yeah.
guess. I don't know your
Okay.
stats on it.
yeah,
Okay.
I would bet on
it's
that.
likely that prevalence rate. Mhm.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Can you tell I have a high schooler
Yeah.
over at New Horner? And I'm curious personally. So how does the SWEP program, the summer program work? Is it like you try that and then?
So there's often confusion that SWEP is SSD and SWEP isn't, right? It's MERS Goodwill funded by the Productive Living Board. And we always recommend that our students try to participate for
Right,
SWEP and
okay.
apply because it's a paid experience. And we know that research says if you can have any work experience, but really if you can have a paid work experience, then that is more beneficial to you after you graduate. So we encourage our VSP students to participate in SWEP or the VR summer work program if possible.
Okay,
Mhm.
so if you do one, it doesn't exclude you from the other.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Nope.
Any other million questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, great. Thank you.
All right, last on our superintendent report, 4.05 paraprofessionals, professional learning update.
Good evening, President Patroff, Board of Directors, Dr. Macklin. My name is Molly Bolton. I'm the Executive Director of Teaching, Learning, and Accountability. Tonight I have with me Tina Makshay, who's the Director of Professional Learning, and Kevin Haar, who is the Paraprofessional Professional Learning Facilitator. Gotta remember the clicker. The purpose of our presentation tonight, you might remember, we did present in August on some of the great things we have going to support our paraprofessionals. And we told you that we would be coming back with an update with data on our paraprofessional coaches. So we want to share out the professional learning plans from this past school year, as well as the data we have for our paraprofessional coaches and propose a sustainability plan. Now I'm going to turn it over to Kevin.
Sure, thanks. Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight. So I'm going to give you just a brief overview of our Para Academy program. So when we hire new paraprofessionals, they first come to our new para orientation session. This is a 4-day orientation. So their first 4 days on the job are with us. We have some outlines from DESE about what should be presented to the new hires, but we go above and beyond that. Through those 4 days, they get their NCI certification. They get exposed to many of our departments in SSD, from DEIA to the FACE team to the technology department. We cover skills and the key concepts that we want new paraprofessionals to know, from behavior management skills to strategies to working with students with autism to disability awareness in general. So it serves as a way to present those core concepts and to those essential skills to those paras, but also as a way to present the district to the new hires as well. We have paraprofessionals who come to us from all kinds of different career backgrounds. Many of them have been educators before for decades, and others have come from diverse backgrounds in their careers to us. So we help them through their first year. Then in years 2 and 3, they choose 1 out of 4 lanes to investigate further. So we have 4 different pathways that they can choose from. The first is autism strategies. The second is student behavior management, then numeracy and literacy skills. So those are asynchronous learnings that they can participate in with the support of our teams at Professional Learning. So they pick a pathway in year 2, and then in year 3, they take the second part of that course. Then over the past 2 years, we have added 3 paraeducator coaches. So we started with 1 in 2022, and then just this past year in August 2023, we've added 2 more paraprofessional coaches. So the coaches are spread out throughout the district. We've set them up into 3 different zones. We were intentional about the zones that the para coaches work in. We considered some disproportionality data. We've looked at retention rates and the number of new hires in each district, and we've separated the paras into those 3 zones. Those numbers there that you see, those are the number of paras in their first, second, or third year with the district. So not the total number of paras, just in their first 3 years. So what the coaches are doing that is essential and important is they are the ones going into the buildings, assisting those paras as they're getting started on their jobs, conducting observations, helping them to come up with a plan or a strategy or a goal that they can monitor and move forward. We can present a lot of that basic information in the new para orientation session, but as they get on into their schools, they often need that support and that coaching to build up those skills with fidelity. We have paras who work in all kinds of different environments, from the VSP program to going back and forth to classrooms, to functional skills, to autism specific classrooms. And so they need specific supports based off of what their role is in those buildings. And our coaches have been able to provide that this year, and we'll get into some data about what they've been able to accomplish.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm happy to share with you a little bit about the metrics we've been collecting and the results that we're experiencing through this first semester. So thinking back to how we displayed or talked about the measures we would collect, they speak first to like some of the implementation measures or some of that counting data. What are the number of new higher paras? Where are they located geographically? Retention, those types of things, on up to their impressions of the professional learning program, and then getting into some of those impact measures as well. So what that's looked like in terms of retention, we did a little bit of comparison between where we are currently as compared to this time last year. And so you can see that number of vacancies, it has decreased, as well as the number of resignations. So that's a little bit about speaking to the retention numbers. What that's looked like in terms of training is, as you might expect, then the number of new paras we're training has decreased in the last year. As we're doing that, we are also able to increase the in-district professional learning that we are providing, and that is due to those grant-funded coaches, as well as Mr. Har out leading those presentations. Also, with improved efforts, we are making an impact in terms of the number of year 2 and year 3 paraprofessionals that are enrolled in the asynchronous professional learning, and the completion rate is much improved over previous years as well. Satisfaction remains consistently high in terms of the professional learning. And so from new para orientation, you can see that through the evaluations that are collected, as well as in the in-district professional learning, there is a high degree of satisfaction with the overall quality of those learning experiences. In terms of specifically what the para coaches, the activities they've been engaged in, and some buckets, if you will, of the support they've been providing, the coaches have been joining Mr. Har in completing some of those new para orientation sessions, as well as being out in districts leading that professional learning. And while this speaks to 4 districts, that number has grown even exponentially since we developed this PowerPoint. January has been a big month with some in-district professional learning, with many more plans over these upcoming months. So that kind of in-district learning is really taking off. With the support, our para coaches collect data on the activities that they're providing to individual coaches. And so what these data tell us currently is our impact or our reach is really with those paraprofessionals that are in the first 3 years of employment, and specifically the highest number of contacts have been with those year 1 paraprofessionals. And so if they have attended new para orientation, our coaches have reached out to each and every new paraprofessional. We're learning is to have a meaningful interaction. About 30 minutes is what we are working and trying to be diligent in, so that paraprofessionals can then return to their work with students as quickly as possible. In terms of what specifically topics they've been supporting, we have 3 buckets, if you will, coaching being one, problem solving being another, as well as modeling. And so you can see the breakdown of when we're coaching. A lot of the coaching has been around collaboration, followed by social emotional behavioral aspects, and then focus on instruction and student engagement. Some other aspects that are in place that align to the data spectrum or metrics that we talked about earlier is currently, for many of the paraprofessionals, they are self-reflecting on those skills that are taught throughout the 3 years in their induction. And they're developing goals based upon that self-reflection, as well as utilizing the feedback through the observation feedback cycle of the coaches to help support improved practices and growth as a paraprofessional. And Lastly, just wanted to highlight some of the celebrations and next steps. Certainly, we continue to look at retention and just those reduction in vacancies as well. And again, celebrating the fact that our reach to year 2 and year 3 paraprofessionals with very structured professional learning opportunities. Communication, rapport building, that's been a big part of our work first semester in supporting administrators, teachers, and paraprofessionals collectively. And then lastly, with our next steps, those observation cycles, continued coaching, and goal setting will again help support reaching our impact measures. And with that, I believe we're going to move to what we envision and offer as maintaining and sustaining the program. Oops. It left completely. Get it back up, please.
So as we look at maintaining and sustaining, you know, as we presented previously, the paraprofessional coaching positions are grant funded, and that grant does end June of this year. We will be requesting through the budgeting process to maintain our 3 paraprofessional coaches, as well as looking at transitioning our current paraprofessional facilitator, Kevin, to more of an administrative role. We are really utilizing his role to be a strong voice for our peers at the decision-making tables. And he's participating on a lot of district level committees and things that we feel warrant an administrator type position. And then that position would then supervise those para educator coaches. And so, you know, we really want to continue to really build capacity and hold that retention rate of our paraprofessional staff. We have our paraprofessionals. I was just actually, just a little side note, I was in Pattonville a couple weeks ago at their professional learning. They had a professional learning day where they offered choices, and Kevin and his crew were there supporting our paraprofessionals. And many of them said this is the first time they felt like they've been treated like professionals on a professional development day, having professional learning totally designed for their needs. So we know that we're making a huge impact and just want to continue that impact moving forward. So with that, I will move to what questions do you have for us?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Slide 6. I was looking at the coaches per zone.
Yeah.
Why is there such a difference in North County? I mean, it's a striking difference. I mean, clearly it's a significant difference. You're talking 138 professionals in North County from year 1 to 3. Am I understanding that right?
Correct.
As opposed to Parkway 238 or Zone 2, 238 and Zone 1, 292. And yet it looks like Zone 3, when I see Hazelwood, Ferg Flow, 2 relatively large districts. I mean, that my guess is the coaches per Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3 were set up so that they would have roughly the same number of students.
We very intentionally focused lower numbers on that zone 3. Couple of reasons. First of all, our retention rate and our fill rate is lower in those areas. So we wanted the folks coming in to have that support more readily available to them, so that we can hopefully retain them, as well as word getting out, hey, come work for us. Our supports are awesome. And so those hard to fill districts. You also have your disproportionality districts in that. So a lot of high risks there.
Just do me a favor on this one. When we come back to the budgeting process on this, and this goes from grant to where we're going to pay for it.
Yes.
Could you show the retention as opposed before you started this program as to what it is now? If there's been an increase in retention or percentage increase in retention, because it would make it a lot easier to fund it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we did try to show you that a little bit on slide. Let me get there. 8 or 9.
See,
Nine, slide 9.
I'd like to see it specifically
So slide
Zone
9
three
shows you
in
the
particular.
63 vacancies as compared to the 156 last year, and then also showing you the different and the resignations. So last year at the same time frame, we had 112. We've knocked that down to about 41.
Not only what I'd like to see, especially for zone 3, because zone 3,
Broken down by zones.
yeah,
Got it.
that's the one where we've had
Yeah.
difficulties retaining staff.
All right, we can do that.
And I'm not saying that's the only measure, but
No.
I mean that you could sway me easily on that one if you can show me that
Well,
we can retain
We'll
that.
get it to you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Any other questions?
I have a question about, obviously, every new incoming para has their coach coach. Do they also have a mentor who is within their building who can be like, look, let me tell you the secrets in and outs of whichever building they're in and, actually work with those students day in, day out?
Sure. Do you want to speak?
Sure, I'll speak a little bit to it. At this time, we do not have a universal mentoring program
Okay.
accessible. What you described as, kind of what we have in place for teachers. We don't have that in place for paraprofessionals just
Gotcha.
yet. What I would speak to, and others here today could speak to as well, there is a pilot going on within Rittner that has been sponsored through the union to just gather some data on what that is like and what supports being provided, what's the impact of those measures within that too. So Rittner, like I said, Rittner kind of has a pilot program going on right now, coming out of what SSD is funding as our para coaches, and that's
I'd love
the
to
supports
hear
we've been
the
provided. within
results of
too.
that.
Anything
It
else?
just
Yeah,
kind
you
of
all wanna
seems
add
like,
from the- you wanna add?
and obviously is a big word, but a good way to say, hey, welcome to Johnson Elementary, and you're going to work with the fifth graders, and here are people who've worked with these fifth graders before, or when they were in fourth grade, and you can show your.
And as we get that stability, that will even make those partnerships within same school assignments for some sort of mentoring program even more relevant.
Yeah.
One thing I might add is we do have a para retention committee. And within that para retention committee, one of the pieces of feedback that we've gotten frequently is our orientation is great, but then when they get on site, we sometimes lack the structures on site for them to get that specific orientation. So that team is currently working on an onboarding checklist that then our administrators on site can use to ensure that our paras are getting all the information that they need to support those specific students.
Perfect.
Trying to have all of those wraparound supports.
Exactly. This is a hard
available.
job.
Yes,
It's a
absolutely.
hard job.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
No. Okay.
All right, thank you.
you.
You all.
All right, do we have a motion for the approval of the consensual items 5.01?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Do I have a motion for 7.01 action items, part-time secretary, clerical hourly rate adjustment?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Did anyone have any questions that they wanted to ask about this? No? Okay. Is this a yay or nay or all? Or roll call? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Do I have a motion for 7.02 Applied Behavioral Services LLC ABS Therapeutic Education Center?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, are there any questions for this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Board of Education will have a closed meeting. We will have a closed meeting of the Board of Education.
I make a motion that we would have a closed meeting of the Board of Education on January 23rd, 2024 at 7 p.m. January 24th at 6 p.m. and February 13th, 2024 at 7 p.m.
Wait, hold on. I got to reread that just as there's a slight date and change.
Oh, that is the.
Oh, he's got the right one. Perfect. Then never mind. Ha, 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 ha. All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Now we need a roll
Oh,
call.
I got caught.
Director Asner,
Yes.
Director Cuneo,
Yes.
Director Hudson. Yes. Director Mueller,
Yes.
Director Staten,
Yes.
Vice President Byers.
Yes.
And President Petrov.
Yes. Do you have a motion for 1.02 approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Do I have a motion? The action items. The following items were approved during the executive meeting on December 5th, 2023. Employment resignations, retirement, salary adjustments, extra duty pay, 2 contract release requests, and 1 settlement. The following items were approved during the executive meeting on January 9th, 2024. Employment resignations, retirement, salary adjustments, and extra duty pay. Board communications, anything anyone would like to share?
I do just want to say, I want to thank everyone for their hard work and their presentations tonight. It's clear here that the presentations tonight were exemplar. And so thank you all for that hard work.
Yes, thank you. Calendar of events are on our webpage. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Never. Thank you so much. See you.